Hello, welcome back to my channel Ujima Flick Books. If you're new here, my name is Jo and I am a crime fiction, thriller, mystery, suspense, Nordic noir, that kind of thing reader from the UK. And I am back with a book review, which is the first book review on this channel for a very long time. I've already said why it's been so long in my May roundup June to be read video, which I will leave linked up there. Well, we're back. The review that I have today is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. So Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney was recommended to me by my friend Cameron, and what a recommendation. Like, Cameron, any other recommendations you want to throw my way? Because your recommendations are amazing. This is the first Alice Feeney book that I've read. It will not be the last, which I realise I'm kind of spoiling the review bit. One thing about this book, just not related to like the actual content of the book, but Alice Feeney is British. She's a New York Times bestseller, and yet I couldn't find any of her books in the normal bookstores that I checked. So there was nothing in Waterstones. My local bookstore, which is an independent bookstore, didn't have any, and they actually said they couldn't order any. It was just very hard to find anywhere except Amazon, and I'm not really sure why that is. Like, the Waterstones near me, there's a big one in Liverpool and a big one in Manchester, and neither of them seem to stock her books. Not really sure why, but they're readily available on Amazon, so that's where I picked this one up from. So what is this book about? So in a nutshell, this book is about 10 years of marriage, 10 years of anniversary gifts, and 10 years of letters written to Adam Wright by his wife on their anniversary. Essentially, every anniversary she writes a letter to him of like how she's feeling, what the last year, what she's looking forward to, and he's never been allowed to read them until now. Adam's wife Amelia randomly wins a trip to Scotland for over their anniversary, and they go on this trip basically knowing that it's a make or break point in their relationship, and essentially put all of their future together into making this weekend a success. But with essentially 10 years worth of secrets, or I guess just the truth of how people are feeling coming out during that weekend, it might all be a bit too much for the relationship and actually their lives to survive. I think that's the best I can describe it in a spoiler-free way. Yeah, that's what you're getting. So what did I think of this book? This book was amazing. Like, just blew me away. If you only read one book this year, it should be that book. That's how good of a book it is. I literally would carry this book around the house with me so that I could, like, if I was cooking tea, whilst I was cooking, I could like multitask and read a couple of chapters because I could not put it down that much. It basically got carted around the house with me the entire time I was reading it, and I was like, okay, I've got like 10 minutes, I can quickly read 2 chapters because they are quite short chapters. It was that level of like, I had to finish that book. The actual construction of the book is really cleverly done. The chapters switch between Adam and Amelia, and then sprinkled in there are like the letters for the anniversary, so I feel like we're getting a lot of backstory and a lot of background into the characters, plus seeing the downfall of the relationship without it sort of dragging or being pointless descriptions within the chapter, you know, where it's sort of like, oh, there's no like, I remember a time, and then Adam going off into a big, you know, flashback. There's none of that. It just flows really nicely and really naturally, which I really enjoyed. The other thing that I really enjoyed was the setting. So if you've read my review of Outside by Ragnar Jonasson, which I'll leave linked up there, you'll know that an atmospheric setting and a feeling of isolation is something that I really enjoy reading in books. I don't know why. Maybe I just want to escape to a castle and have no neighbours. Don't know. But I really enjoy that in a book, and this has it in abundance. Trapped in a snowstorm, check. Isolated location with no neighbours, check. Spooky castle, like it has everything. Just really enjoyed the setting for it. Add to that there were creepy noises, randomly locked rooms and a cellar, which straight away, cellars make it ominous, right? Maybe it's just because I've never been in a house that had a cellar, but to me that straight away is bodies in a cellar. There were no bodies in the cellar, or were there? Yeah, it just had this like really ominous overtone, but without being too heavy and bored, you know, like there's a risk that it could have fallen into sort of a horror, but it didn't. It kept it in the mystery, thriller, suspense without bordering into just plain horror, if that makes any sort of sense. Not sure I made any sense then, but I know what I mean. Hopefully you do too. Each and every one of the characters was completely believable, really well thought out, and had a completely rounded backstory. I don't feel like there was ever a time where a character sort of reacted in a way that felt at odds with the rest of the character development. Like there was never a point where a character reacted to something and I was like, that completely broken what I thought of that character. Like everything seemed to be in keeping with what we'd been told about the character, like every reaction from them, which I enjoyed, because I feel like sometimes writers get to a point and then they don't know how to progress the story, and so they have a character do something completely out of character just to progress a story, which I really dislike, but there was none of that here. There is some truly beautiful writing in this book. There were a few times where, had I been reading this on Kindle, I would have highlighted it, and instead I basically took photographs and highlighted the text on my phone, some of which, if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen. But there was one section in particular which I just thought was completely beautiful, and also something that you could see on a poster somewhere, and I'm going to read it out because that's how beautifully written it was. Believing in someone is one of the greatest gifts you can give them. It's free and the results can be priceless. I think that is a really lovely piece of writing, and not something that I would have expected to see within a thriller genre book, and maybe that's why it stood out even more, but I just think it's a really beautiful sentiment. There is a twist in this book. It is a monumental twist that I did not see coming, and I read it, sat like this for a bit going, what? And then messaged Cameron straight away with just sort of going, oh my god, you didn't warn me, what? Because it was just so out of the blue. I just didn't expect it at all. The twist unfolds in the final chapters, and I was so blindsided by it, I had to go back and reread the chapter where it initially happens, because I was just like, I've read that wrong, must have read that wrong. And then it made me question my entire existence, to be perfectly honest. That's how, like, big a twist, but how I was just completely oblivious to it. And I'm not really sure how I was so oblivious, but I was. So I don't think it's going to come as any great shock that I scored this book very highly. I scored it 5 out of 5. There is not one thing that I would change with this book. It was brilliant. Loved it from start to finish, and will happily be reading more Alice Feeney because it's just great. This copy will be going to my mum because I think my mum will love this book as well, so she'll be getting this to read. But yeah, I cannot highly recommend this book enough. It is just brilliant. That's all I have to say. Brilliant. I don't think I can thank Cameron enough for that recommendation, because it is just brilliant. I think I've said brilliant so many times now it's lost all meaning. 5 out of 5, everyone should go and read it, and that's all I can say on it. If you have read it, let me know down in the comments what you thought of the twist. Try and leave it spoiler free. Although if you haven't read it, maybe stay away from the comments just in case there are spoilers. I say this like I get thousands of comments. I get like 3 comments if I'm lucky, but you know, throw it out there just in case. Don't want somebody to be spoiled from the comments of my little 50, if that, subscriber. YouTube channel. But thanks for watching this video. If you've liked it, give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs down if you didn't like it. Literally doesn't make any difference on YouTube. Hit subscribe if you want to see more inane ramblings from me talking about books, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!